Hi, Ro, and welcome to another episode of the Impactful Podcast. This is the Inspired Podcast, and I am thrilled to be with you here today. I think you'll be really blessed and excited and inspired by the guest that we have today. So let me, without further ado, introduce Dimakatso Lekekela, who is the founder and CEO of Zuri Nutrition. And she is with me here today, and she's going to share some wonderful insights about her journey. Dee, good morning to you. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Tafa. I'm great. Just really excited to have this conversation with you today. I can't wait to get going. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Can't complain at all. Great. So, Dee, we're going to get started just to get to know you a little bit better. I think a lot of people, don't probably know a little bit about you. And, I've obviously seen you in social media, I've interacted with you in business. But, tell us a little bit about yourself, in terms of who you are and where did you grow up?
Well, my story is a little bit colorful. I am a girl from the rurals originally. So I was born in a town called Kwakwa, which is in the Free State, where I was born to my parents. I was the only child at that point. Looking for a greater future, I guess we moved to Bloemfontein and later on moved to Klerksdorp, where I'm at now. So I grew up watching my mother, who's very like hardworking, and my dad was always an entrepreneur. There was always something that he was doing apart from his full-time work, which he did working for government. So I've always known from a very young age that I also want to create something of my own, go into business and all of that. But it was just also not knowing which direction or which industry I would land in. Later on, my little sister was born. We were a family of four, still here in Klerksdorp. And that's when I also just discovered my love for media, marketing, literature. But I still had this passion for health and fitness because one thing that's funny that I don't really talk about, like both my parents are really athletic. So staying fit and athletic and eating well was always part of our lifestyle at home. So keeping that in the back of my mind and not really addressing that, I focused on creating a career in media and advertising. And that's how I ended up in Joburg. I worked in advertising. And then I also worked in marketing for aviation companies while I was there. But while doing that, that's when something just clicked in my mind. Like, what about your love? Like, why are you not fulfilled at this point? And what about your love for fitness and nutrition? And while I was still working, I then decided to enroll at HFPA, and then I studied exercise science. I started my studies into nutrition, and then a couple of years later, here I am, no more in aviation, no more in advertising, and making pills for people.
Such a fascinating story, and I can't wait to dive into it and really, understand the lessons that you've gleaned from that as well. And I think that'll be really impactful for anybody who is, listening and engaging with this episode. So, tell us a little bit about your study choices, right? I think you touched on it slightly. But I know you did study at the University of Witwatersrand as well as at Vega School as well. But tell us a little bit about the inception in terms of what really led to your study choices. What was the sort of thinking behind it, and how does it feed into where you are currently today?
Oh, okay. So with my studies, my undergrad, I went to University of Wits to study a BA in media, drama, and film. So it's really interesting because in high school, I was always the English teacher's favorite because I was always into literature. I loved speaking in front of people. I was always very animated. So a lot of my teachers thought you should go and be an actress. But I was like, I don't really want to be an actress. I think there are other things that I could do a little bit more. And that's when I was steered towards maybe looking into media, maybe not being an actress, but maybe you could be a broadcast journalist or something like that. So it wasn't really driven by passion why I went and I did media, drama, and film, but that's how I got there. And also, one thing that's quite funny was that I actually at some point contemplated the whole studying drama and being an actress. But somebody then told me it's really just very difficult to, make a living with, to make a living with that career choice. And I decided, let me go for the safer route. So that's how I ended up at Wits, which I really enjoyed. I think I got a lot more out of it than I expected. And as soon as I finished my undergrad, thinking that I would go into maybe working for a news publication, I then bumped into someone else who really created an impact in my life and had a discussion with me about the power of branding. And back then, branding wasn't so well known and wasn't so understood. And so I thought this was really interesting. You could actually take your creativity and your knowledge of business and media and actually help to grow business, create things that can actually impact the world just from an understanding of a brand perspective, And then so went back home. My parents thought they were done, paying for these hefty university fees. And I said, guys, I want to do an honors degree in branding. And that's how I ended up at Vega. And both experiences were very, very different. I think this was very technical, critical thinking. And Vega was very much tapping into creativity and how to resonate with people and how to, build something outside of just building a product, but something that can impact and resonate with people as well. So both of my studies just sort of like went in together really wonderfully. After that, like I mentioned, when I was working in aviation, I was at Comair at the time, doing brand management. And I realized I probably would enjoy doing brand management somewhere in the health and fitness sector. And so as a hobby, I signed up with HFPA, which is a health and fitness academy. They have a campus in Rivonia in Johannesburg, which is where I studied exercise science. And then from there, I also did a course in nutrition. Quickly after being qualified as a fitness trainer, I then quit my job, being the risk taker that I am, to try and start a fitness business, which failed dismally. And that's how I actually ended up coming back to Klerksdorp to do a whole other project while here, which also failed. But even then, when that happened, that's when I actually had to sit down and look back at all the qualifications and experiences that I had, and how can I now build towards my future, sitting at a place where I failed so much. And that's how I created Zuri Nutrition. And before I did that, I studied yet again a diploma in nutrition, therapeutics, and health to help me, be better equipped to formulate these products that I'm selling out there to the world.
Okay, that's
long
a really inspirational journey. I think there's something to talk to about how you persevered even through different failures, different obstacles and challenges, and I think we will get to some of that in the ensuing. But before we get even more serious, let's take a step back a little bit. Tell us, when you're not building Zuri Nutrition, what do you do for fun?
I don't have much fun.
There has to be something. There has to be something that you do.
what do I do for fun? Okay, let me just say the past couple of months, I haven't had much time to do the things that I enjoy. I think it's just because I'm focusing so much on scaling up that every bit of free time I have, I'm trying to work towards maybe something I didn't touch on during the week. But my family and I are very, very close. So if I'm not busy with Zuri nutrition, the one thing I want to do is definitely make time for them, hanging out with them, maybe going out, lunches and things like that, or hang out with a couple of my friends. But one thing that I do to de-stress is that I do love to train. It makes sense, obviously, with my background. So, working out, listening to podcasts like yours, but I'm pretty boring at this point.
No, that's great, and I think that that is the reality, right? Of building something special. It's really that is the harsh reality of it. Is that it does take quite a lot of time, but also I think it's really good that you do find some pockets of time to do the things that do at least de-stress you and all of that, and some of the things that you do enjoy will come with time as well. So I think it's actually certainly a reality of building businesses that we need to definitely take into cognizance. Um, so then, in terms of talking about beauty and wellness, and I want to just touch on this, a little bit. I think we've already touched on the birth of Zuri Nutrition, but I'd like to get your thoughts on why do you think there's such a drive to focus on beauty and wellness in today's world? And I think this is something that I think has really started to take shape over the last few years, and there's a lot of focus on it. Why do you think it's important for us to focus on beauty and wellness in today's world?
Um, okay, so why do I think beauty and wellness has seen some sort of like a boom in this day and age? Definitely, I think before, if I were to start with the beauty side of things, the beauty industry, if we look back, right, from the mass audience perspective, was how I engaged within this industry as a consumer,
Yeah.
and basically being told this is how you look and this is what you use, so you look a certain way. Now, with technology having changed everything, I'm no longer a consumer. I'm now a producer as well, if I want,
Yeah.
right? So I'm a creator and a consumer. And so what we found is that now a lot more people are engaging within the beauty industry. Everybody knows like one or two people who owns like a makeup brand, So we're a lot more involved, and we're a lot more as the creators of the content at this point in time. We're a lot more involved in deciding what we put out there, right? So a lot more people are involved in the industry, which creates sort of also a bigger reach with regards to the beauty industry. And I think that's why it probably has seen a boom. But the beauty industry has always been a big part of society for a long, long time. It's one industry that never, ever, ever dies. It even survived COVID. So definitely, I think that's one of the things, the fact that how people engage with the industry has changed. The health factor, which I'd probably know a bit more because I'm within that industry. I think if we take it back to just the last couple of years, the COVID pandemic really, really hit us and put us all in a vulnerable place, right? And I think because of that, we were all forced to sort of become more aware of our health status, and more aware of the way our lifestyles impact our quality of life,
Absolutely.
and how vulnerable we are to certain illnesses and diseases. So I think that's why a lot more people are a bit more conscious about what they eat, where their food is sourced from, and things like that. And it's wonderful for me, but an interesting fact is that I started Zuri Nutrition during the COVID pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Which is when most businesses were actually
Yeah.
struggling and dying out. And I think because of that, it was the time where we saw the supplement boom. And that's because at that point, like I said, the vulnerability and all of that really added to people's fear
Yeah.
and wanting to take control of their health. So I think definitely that's why we're seeing a big boom with both. And we're also now seeing them come together with businesses like mine, for example, where the health supplements are actually meant to help with the beauty side of things. I think customers are becoming a lot more aware, a lot more knowledgeable about supplementation and things like that. And that's what's fueling the growth within the industries.
Absolutely. And I think it's quite profound what you're saying. I think there has been that massive shift, and the COVID pandemic did have a massive effect on that. I think with that focus comes a risk of comparing myself to somebody else in terms of beauty and wellness. Particularly in today's age of social media, where that's sort of portrayed, and people sort of portray their wellness journey or their beauty journey, and I myself obviously then will compare myself to that, and I'm quite curious to get your thoughts on how does one overcome that, right? That spirit of comparison, of one's beauty and wellness, because it's actually supposed to be about yourself, right? It's supposed to be personal journey. It's supposed to be, and if somebody shares their personal journey, it's meant to inspire you and not actually to discourage you, in a form of comparison. But I'm quite curious how you think, one should overcome that spirit of comparison.
Oh, the spirit of comparison. Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And how to overcome that. One thing I will say is, and it touches on what I spoke about before, that within the beauty industry, we're no longer consumers, we're producers. And there's like a danger in that,
Yeah.
right? So I think with regard to social media, one thing people should do is to try to always remember that it's all curated, right? So we all put the best parts of our lives on social media, which is one thing, right? So it cannot be taken at face value. And also your health journey and your fitness and beauty journey is really something that is personalized. I would say, like I always say, you're at your most beautiful when you're at your healthiest. And beauty looks different, and beauty is appreciated by the fact that we're all different.
Yes.
And so one thing I would say is to always keep that in the back of your mind. Particularly with the wellness part of things, I know it is very it's well known that like creating inspirational content for weight loss journeys, for example, on social media does good for other people.
Yes.
However, we've seen now a proliferation of self-appointed or self-made nutritionists, dietitians, and fitness trainers, where somebody can just type on their Instagram bio, this is who they are, and then they would feed their knowledge to people out there that is not really accurate. So then there's that, and people taking in information that is incorrect because they're trying to follow on someone else's journey, what worked for them, and that might not work for you as a person. But even more so, that could cause danger and harm. So don't compare. Instagram and social media is curated. Don't take advice from anyone who's just a self-appointed, nutritionist, beautician online. You rather go within the real world if you really need to improve, and consult people who are qualified within that space.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. I think really profound. I loved when you said, you have to be most beautiful when you're healthiest, and I think that's extremely profound. And so, Dee, as a final question, we always ask our guests this question, and really it's about impact, right? So tell us about how you make an impact in your world, in short.
In short. Okay, in short, I think this sort of shows itself within my business, within my personal life, and all of that. I really am all for women empowerment. I am really passionate about that. I'm passionate about children. And so, with that being the case, within my business, I create opportunities for young women who are out of work or maybe just finished graduating and can't find job opportunities. I give them a chance through my business to take on practical learnings. And one thing that I also do is I really I take it over and above teaching somebody skill sets and all of that, but
Yeah.
I'm always one to push forward opportunities towards them, because I really think I am doing good as a person if I can see how somebody's life has changed from the time that they've come in and they've left. And I've taken that spirit to, using my company to create that space, to also partnering with other organizations that believe in the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I work with a company called Virtual Internships. They're based in the UK. And we run programs, well, they run programs, so I participate most of the time to bring women back into the workplace and give them practical experience so that they can have the confidence to apply for jobs after having been out of the job market for a while. You said short, it's hard to keep it short.
Well, that's impact, right? If you've got a lot of impact, then there's a lot to say, right?
It's not that it's a lot, but
Yeah.
definitely, I think the other thing with children, when I started my business, I was obviously doing a lot of research into nutrition within the continent, and it really dawned on me, and it really shocked me how I wasn't aware, and I'm not alone. Well, I wasn't alone at the time, that South Africa still suffers a great deal from malnutrition and stunting for children under 5. And so that's something that I really work towards, the partnership that I have with the Lunchbox Fund, making sure that I can at least do my bit, or my company can at least do our bit into helping them sort of fight this malnutrition crisis. And also, because it's such a passion for me to alleviate that, I am trying to steer my business to not only be a beauty nutrition business, but in the future, we need to also be creating therapeutics for children so that they don't suffer from this throughout the long-term aspect of their lives. So that's how I try to make an impact.
Okay. And you
In
certainly
short.
do. And you certainly do. And you certainly do. Dee, I want to thank you for coming onto the Impact podcast. I want to thank you for the insights that you've shared. I think people have definitely been inspired, and definitely I think there's a lot of lessons that you've learned along your journey, and challenges that you've encountered. And I think some which stand out for me is pushing through different challenges that you've encountered, different mountains that you faced, and climbing over them and going for it. Your perseverance in studying, being really intentional about knowing what it is that you're talking about and knowing what it is that you do, I think is something to be well respected. And I think your views on the importance of wellness, right, and the foundation from which you're building your business from is certainly exceptional to see. And so I want to thank you for coming onto the podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's been a reflective journey for you as well.
Thank you so much, Tafa. I really appreciate your time as well.
Great. And to you, the listener, we want to thank you for listening and watching and engaging. If you'd like to find out more about the podcast, please head over to our website, which is impact-co.co.za, or to our Instagram page, which is @_impact.co, to find out more about us. And we'd love to hear from you, and love to hear what you thought of the episode, and love to hear your thoughts. So from Dee and myself, we want to say thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye.